Hello, everybody, and welcome to Halftime Oranges, the football podcast. I'm your host, Arran, and joining me is Clive and Stefan.
Good evening, everybody.
And Stefan, Brighton fan.
Hello.
Quite a sad occasion today. We're going to do the post-mortem of the Euros. We're going to be looking at England. Where did it go right? But where did it all go wrong? Clive, thoughts?
I mean, we've come within two kicks of winning the Euros, right? Two penalty kicks, right?
True.
It's just, I mean, it was disappointing ultimately, and I think Southgate's been pillared unfairly for how he had approached a large amount of the games. But in all honesty, I mean, I think people just get the whole like tempo and blood and thunder that we see in the Premier League and the Liga and in league football in general. International football's a totally different ball game entirely. I mean, you know, I think to win a tournament, you've got to be a bit more pragmatic. And I just think he probably was a bit concerned about the defence in the early games, especially without Maguire, which is why he went with two holding midfielders, Rice and Phillips. And in all honesty, Rice and Phillips didn't put a foot wrong the whole tournament. And then Maguire comes in and he just like comes bolting out of defence on occasions and almost ends up acting as an extra midfielder. I just feel a little bit where if we talk about the final, because I think the only bad game England really had was the Scotland game. When Chiesa went off for Italy in about the 70th minute, that would have been the time to have brought on Grealish, maybe, because it would have taken him a few minutes to kind of regroup and gather. And to be perfectly honest, I think Chiesa went off just after Bonucci equalised for Italy, and they looked like they were going to get a second very quickly. And it looked like it was going to come from probably Chiesa, and then he went off, and that seemed like, wow, let's like go for it a little bit. Bring on Sancho, bring on Grealish, or you know, even Rashford or someone, but he didn't. And I just felt that then he brought on Grealish, I think, in extra time at some point, or just before extra time, and maybe a slight opportunity lost there. I mean, this England side, I mean, you've got to remember, like, it's a young side, and the likes of Saka, Sancho, Grealish, they're going to be around for the World Cup. You've got players like Smith Rowe, like Greenwood, who are probably going to come in the next tournament and do really, really well. The only other thing that maybe Southgate could have done is maybe stick an extra striker. I mean, Dominic Calvert-Lewin got about a 5-minute sniff against Ukraine, and that was all he ever got, really. I think we've progressed as a side. I think there's definite progression in how we can see out the game going into the next World Cup. I mean, you've got Jude Bellingham as well, who I think might play. Out of all those 11, you could possibly see Jude Bellingham, if we were to go with one holding midfielder, and then give more of a license to the likes of Foden and Mount going into the World Cup. He might be the one that you might see a bit more of in the next World Cup. But I mean, I'd give Southgate a 5-year contract right now for the next World Cup. What the point I make, and the reason I say this, right? Everyone calls him all the names under the sun because he doesn't provide that attacking football. We've been down this road with Keegan. Oh, Keegan's just like the next Messiah back in the early 2000s. You know, like 4-3s at Newcastle, brilliant. Make him England manager. Didn't last more than 6 games. He was absolutely terrible. You know, Sven-Goran Eriksson was perhaps a bit more gung-ho than, say, Southgate was. He didn't get past a quarter-final of any single tournament. And then we've now got a manager who the players would run through a brick wall for. You know, you look at the days of McLaren and Capello, where, you know, it was like, you know, the players were turning up at some Sunday school that the parents wanted them to go on. Really, international football for England players during that period of McLaren and Capello was probably the darkest days in my lifetime of following the England team, because players simply didn't really care. But you can clearly see in this young group of players, in the likes of Phillips, Rice, Saka, Maguire, all of them, Pickford, the lot. There's a hunger there to make England a great side, and will be competitive in the World Cup. I've got no doubt about that.
Let's just concentrate on the final for now. Were you surprised at all, Stefan, about the inclusion of Trippier in the starting 11?
No, not at all. I thought he would play the same team that lined up against Germany. I think whenever he came up against a quality opposition, so say Croatia, Germany, Italy, he was going to play the five at the back, or the 3-4-3 if you like. The issue with that, the one I think you've got to commend Gareth Southgate, as Clive says. I remember the days of Hodgson, McLaren, Sven, and all the nonsense that went with it. And going into
that just hurts my ears hearing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but going into tournaments, we never really had a plan. I think the last tournament that Southgate wasn't in charge of, what was that, for 2016, he was playing really centre mid, trying to accommodate too many people. Kane taking corners, and it was like we're making it up as we went along. But Southgate had a plan. He was a centre back. It's very clear from his selection and however many right backs he included in his squad. He's defensive minded. And I think he had a plan when we played a quality team to keep it tight and maybe on the hour mark was to get a goal. The issue with England in that final is that, if anything, we scored too early.
Just about to ask that question. It's a horrible question to ask. A horrible question, but scoring too early, was that an issue?
We've done it, right, in every big game in the last sort of 10, 15 years. I think Euro 96, Alan Shearer.
True.
The last World Cup, Trippier. I think Owen scored in 2004 against Portugal very, very early on. And then it was almost like our game plan was shot, and Kane went even deeper than he was. We were 10 yards deeper than we needed to be, and we allowed Italy to grow into the game. And I think what we had is a team that was set up to hold on for 85 minutes. And if you allow that Italy team, the likes of Jorginho, to get the run of the play and dominate possession, it was only a matter of time until they scored. And I think he is pragmatic. He has a plan, but when he has to change things in game, he's shown that he isn't very dynamic, if you like.
Yeah, I agree with what you just said. I think his in-game management is questionable. Yeah. I think overall he's been brilliant, but I do think sometimes in-game, I feel like he comes to games with a plan. Even whether the score's 1-0 to us or 1-0 to them, he's saying on 70 minutes this is going to happen. In this scenario, this can happen. I don't feel like it can change or mould going along with the game. So when we did score early on, I feel he still stuck to the game plan that he had pre-game, even if it wouldn't have been that we were going to score early on. And I feel like we missed an opportunity. I feel like you're being too nice. Both of you are being very nice to Southgate. But I feel like we've missed the biggest opportunity that we've had in a long, long time. We were at Wembley, right? We got in the semi-final at the Wembley.
Don't you class the Iceland game as an opportunity in 2016 to get to the quarterfinals, and we're playing Jack Wilshere in bloody midfield? I mean,
potentially, Clive, but I don't think the squad, the situation, the fact that we're at Wembley, I just don't think that I don't think there's a comparison there. I feel like we've missed a huge opportunity. And let's be honest, this is an opportunity that we might not see again. This is the first final in our life that England have got to. Now, there's a huge chance that will never happen again now. I feel like we have missed a massive opportunity. Now, I know what you're saying about going 3-4-3 or 5-3-2, but I hate that. I'm all about going forward at the back. I feel like we should have attacked Italy. I feel like we should have brought the game to them, and we could have opened them up a little bit. I know we scored early, but again, we should have just attacked, and I feel like we didn't have the mentality, whether it was Southgate or some off the field, to keep going at them and attack them. I feel like we scored and we panicked. It was like, shit, what do we do now? And Italy then had the mentality, well, we know exactly what we need to do. We need to score and keep the ball, and that's what they did. And
don't think there was any panic, though.
Oh, I don't know.
Think there was any.
Well, there wasn't a plan. There might have been panic, but there definitely wasn't a plan in place if that situation did occur. And if there was, we didn't see it.
He left England basically with 7 defensive outfield players on the pitch. You've got to think about that. From the 5th minute onwards, that's what we're playing with. So other than the front 3, Phillips and Rice at times during the tournament was almost playing just in front of the centre-backs, especially in the Croatia game. So there was no attack mentality. If you look at that Germany game, it turned out well in the end, but I felt up until pretty much we scored that it was only going to go one way, to be honest.
Yeah, it was looking pretty ominous. Germany, again, not a great squad of players. England, a much better team.
This is the worst. This is the worst Germany team I think we've ever seen in, certainly in my lifetime. And I think
I've got to say, I don't think this is the best Italian squad we've ever seen in our lifetime. However, I do think it might be the best English squad we've ever seen in our lifetime. That is why I'm saying it is a bloody big missed opportunity.
But what I'll say, in a year's time, they'll be even better, won't they? We're talking about Bellingham and the likes, that tournament experience.
We won't be at Wembley, though. We won't be at Wembley. We'll be in the bloody desert.
I think the reason that I have great faith in how this England side's going to do is, you criticise Southgate for sticking to a plan, but Southgate's leadership style, I think, second to none in terms of English international football managers that we could get. He holds like pre-mortems with his team, and he covers like every aspect of game management about what might happen. Now, for the first half hour in that final, after we took the lead, we could have kept on and we were asking questions of Italy. But then the last 10 minutes of the first half, Italy took control. Italy were by far the better team in the second half. But extra time, the pendulum swung back a bit more towards England's way a little bit. And I just think he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't, Southgate. If he brought on Grealish with 20, 15, 10 minutes to go, and then we lost it and not taking it to extra time, he would have been criticised for not holding on for that extra half an hour, and playing out for penalties. It's the fine margins of international football. And we've got two choices if we decide not to continue with Southgate, which if we don't would be absolute madness. You have Steve fucking Bruce, you have Eddie Howe, or you have Sean Dyche.
What about Potter at Brighton?
Steve Bruce, very lucky to get that conversation.
We can have Potter doing Swan Lake as warm-ups for the England on training camps.
You're saying it has to be an English manager?
I'm not saying it has to be an English manager.
Would you take Mancini? If Mancini came up tomorrow and said, "I'd love to be the England manager for the next World Cup. I don't want to be the Italian manager." Would you? I think Stefan's shaking hands there. What about you, Clive?
Absolutely, I'd say yeah. I'd say.
What would you do?
It's a poor show.
What would you do? Just answer the question. What would you do?
I wouldn't want Mancini as England manager.
Oh, really? You wouldn't want the best international football manager right now as the England manager?
Is he? I wouldn't say he's the best international football.
Who's better than Mancini? Who's better than Mancini? I think Italy won that competition because they had a good squad of players, not a great squad of players, but they had the best manager in the competition. They had the best manager. If Mancini, I know this is, you can say, well, but if Mancini was the manager of England, do you think we would have had a better chance to win the tournament?
Just think you've got to. All right.
I say yes. I'm saying yes. 100%.
Mancini is an excellent tactical manager.
Ideal.
You've got no. Hang on a sec. You've got to bear in mind the way Italian football and English football is totally and utterly different.
He's managed in the Premier League and won it. It's not like he doesn't understand English mentality or English players.
Off a lot of players during that Man City time at the same time of doing it. You're only got to look as far as Capello, and I think like the way that Italians.
That's like saying, you've got to compare Hodgson with Southgate because they're both English.
Italian players have a much further power distance away from the coach than what English players expect. It's that simple. You've got a manager in the form of Gareth Southgate who knows when to put his arm around a player. He knows when to bollock a player. He knows when to tell a player to kick on, like he did do with Trent Alexander-Arnold. And he knows when to drop a player, like he did early on in his managerial stint with Wayne Rooney.
But he doesn't know how to win trophies. Mancini does know how to win trophies. Isn't that the ultimate fact?
You've got a manager in Mancini that's probably 10 years or so senior to Southgate. So, of course, Mancini is going to have a much better managerial CV than Gareth Southgate. What I'm saying is you look at the history of relationships that England managers have had with their players. We got knocked out of the 2008 Euro qualifier against Croatia after McLaren changed David James, who was it? Scott Carson, was
Carson,
it?
Yeah.
And then David James is asking McLaren questions in the dressing room after. McLaren just gives him a bloody sausage roll or a sandwich. That would never happen in a month of Sundays under Southgate.
He's a vegan, isn't he?
Mancini would never give a sausage roll out. I'll tell you that.
I don't think Mancini is the reason. And this is the difference. I think Mancini is very good with the Italian squad purely because of what Italian players expect in their relationship with their coach or manager.
Okay, all right.
Southgate very good with an English squad because he knows what English players expect from the culture of a manager. And it's not just Gareth Southgate, yeah? You've got to look at that whole manager team that they've set up there. Steve Holland is an absolute mastermind in terms of the assistant manager.
All right,
and you've got
okay, Clive.
the Newcastle assistant manager that's come in and helped Southgate massively tactically as well. You know, and this England race going forward, it's not run yet. I think we've got a lot of potential in this squad.
You've made some great points, right? Southgate has done tremendous things, no question about it. I'm just saying now, with this squad of players that we've got, do you think he's the right person to take us to the World Cup and win the tournament? You're saying yes, Stefan.
100%.
I wouldn't want to derail it, and I think
that's fair. And I understand that. But has it not been partially derailed right now?
How? I can't see how it's been derailed at all. When you get to a penalty shootout in the final of a major tournament, you know, it's not been derailed. We've been unlucky. You know, if we'd lost 3-4, 5-0, yes, derailed, demotivated, deflated questions would be asked. You know, we've bossed for large periods, except the Scotland game, every game pretty much. You know, let's not forget as well, before this Euros, you know, how well we did at the World Cup, how well we did in the Nations League, going to Spain and winning. I mean, there's a lot of pluses in what Southgate's been doing here.
And it's about the journey, isn't it, and about progress. So I think 2018 semi-final, we can say we had an easy run, but we weren't in control of many of those games. And as Clive says there, we were in control. I think the semi-final against Denmark, we were playing keep ball in extra time. And I've never seen it. I've seen that being done to us so many times over the years. I've never seen us do it to them. I wouldn't want to derail it because I think he's moving in the right direction. And with the England job, it isn't just about tactics and dates. The rest of it is the press, the media, players wanting to come and meet up and take time out from the Premier League teams. And like the group he's building, I think he is heading in the right direction. It does look like a missed opportunity now. But in a year's time, there's a year older, these players, tournament experience now, enjoying being part of the group. I can see bright things for England. I was a sceptic of Gareth Southgate when he got the job. And I don't think any of us really, when he got given that job, were excited about that appointment.
No.
Excited about Sam Allardyce?
I thought that was a shrewd signing.
I mean,
to be fair though, I mean, Southgate, you look at him at club level, he's done hardly anything, right? Southgate at least got Bolton to what? 5th place in the Premier League?
Allardyce.
It's Allardyce, sorry.
Yeah, he did all right with Bolton, but he didn't do very well with anyone else. Again, it comes to me in international football, it comes down to man management. And Southgate's got that down to a T. And there is definite progress on the tactical side if you compare the World Cup to the Euros.
Yeah.
Well, let's just go back into the final. Let's go to the to extra time. Would you have liked to have seen him made the Rashford and Sancho sub earlier to give them a chance actually to play in the game rather than just to take the penalties?
Definitely, yeah. I think maybe this is a downside of him. I think he is meticulous, and he would have had his penalty takers lined out before the game. So he would have looked at strikers, he would have looked at Kane, Saka, Sancho and Rashford and tried to get them on the pitch. I think he's so set on getting them on the pitch and not focusing on what the impact they could have actually had in the game and putting them on cold to take a penalty. Somebody like Rashford and Sancho, I think that was a bit of a mistake, just maybe 10 minutes earlier. I can understand he didn't want to put Rashford on at right back and concede a goal because then he would have got criticised one way or the other.
He did bring him on at right back though.
There's a point in which it looked like Rashford wasn't going to get on. They were trying to keep the ball out, right?
Yeah.
They were, yeah.
So, yeah, I think he had his penalty takers in mind. And broadly speaking, those with the exceptions of Grealish, those are the ones I would have chosen.
You would have chosen Saka.
I would have chosen Saka. I mean,
you know, the most interesting thing of that penalty list, the penalty shootout list, that I found really surprising. Southgate's clearly planned it. They clearly practiced all of this in training. He's going up to each individual penalty. You take first, you take second, you take third, fourth, and fifth. Now, what I found really surprising is he went up to Sancho and told him whatever number he was taking. He went up to Saka, and on those two occasions, Grealish was right next to him. And you could just see Grealish was dying to take a penalty.
Well, he admitted, didn't he? He admitted that he wanted to take a penalty. He did actually say, because people were criticising.
We don't know what Grealish's percentage was like in taking penalties in training. He could have missed a hatful. That is information that we're not aware for. And let's also remember, he is way down the pecking list taking penalties at Aston Villa. Watkins and is it El Ghazi will take penalties before Grealish will do. Like Sancho and Rashford take penalties for Dortmund and Man United. What he did was no brainer. Saka.
What about the
only one I don't
the order of the penalty takers? Putting Saka on last when all the attention goes to him. Do you think that was a mistake?
I just don't think.
Well, you could have put Rashford there. Do you know what I'm saying? It might. The pressure of taking a penalty is immense. Giving him the fifth penalty just elevates that tension. Would you not say?
Footballer,
and what you do in training then goes out the window because your brain's scrambled.
If you're a professional footballer, you need to be prepared to step up whenever the time.
How do you prepare to take a penalty in the final?
6-yard tapping, whether it's a 6-yard tap, a free kick, or a one-on-one with the keeper, or a penalty shootout, you as a professional footballer need to be ready. And if you're not ready, then you perhaps shouldn't be in the squad. You could argue, yes, Saka, too young for such a massive amount of responsibility. Could then Southgate have changed the fifth penalty taker? You know what would have happened if he'd done that? There would have been cameras on him, seeing him, telling Saka, right, you're not taking it anymore. Gave it to Grealish. Grealish misses it. And then everyone's asking the question, why did you change it?
No.
Again, it comes.
If he would have explained that I don't want to put all this pressure on the 19-year-old Saka, Grealish wanted to take one, so I gave it him. I think people would understand that much more. I really do.
Well, that's England's chances gone, isn't it? Really. I mean, I think. Also, I just want to make this point. You know, you've now got a coaching setup of Steve Holland, Chris Powell, and Graham Jones behind Southgate, and Graham Jones, I think, is probably a better tactical assistant manager than perhaps what Southgate is. And I think Graham Jones and Powell and Holland, they will get together shortly, you know, as we go into the September qualifiers to the World Cup, and there'll be a lot of analysis into what went wrong in their game approach, perhaps. And I think as we go through the qualifiers and as we approach the World Cup, we may see a slight shift away from pragmatism. Maybe not in the group stages, but certainly when we get to the knockout stages. I'm just really looking forward to us getting Brazil or Argentina in the World Cup and just being able to tell you all, I told you so. And that Southgate can.
I hope you're right. I will come to your house and tell you, you were right, Clive. You were right.
I'll hold you to that.
So when you were watching the game, pre-kickoff, did you genuinely believe we were going to do it?
100%.
Yeah. Stefan, same?
The moment that France went out and I looked at Arran, that's when I thought, now I'm a believer. And I've never, ever believed that England could win a tournament. Because you know, right? You're
more optimistic than me, you two.
I think for me, I mean, 2004, 2006, I firmly believed we'd win it. 2010, 12, 14, 16, you always hope, don't you?
Yeah.
But you're like, no. 2018, I thought we'd get quarterfinals and we did much better. But I really thought, you know, the only team I thought was in our way was France. Yeah. And I just wasn't the slightest bit bothered about Belgium. Belgium are like an international version of Tottenham Hotspur. You know, they totally ran out of they're like a local milkman. They just run out of all bottle by like 10 a.m. You know, it's like I've just got no.
I'm going to use that one.
One of the most pleasing things this tournament was seeing Belgium fail again, because everyone keeps talking them up, and Belgium individually have got great players, but they don't play as a team, and there just seems to be a lack of spirit there. And I think, you know, part of that is you've got Martinez, who perhaps isn't so connected to Belgian football. You've got Thierry Henry. It's all about man management, and I just didn't really. I've never seen that in the Belgian.
I think the Belgians are calling Roberto Martinez the Spanish Southgate, aren't they?
Maybe.
Yeah, well, generation, I think now as well, right? So do you think that Belgian?
Yeah. Oh, definitely, for sure. And you have to put that down to the choice of manager, right? I mean, anyone in football who saw Roberto Martinez get picked as the manager of Belgium with that squad was a little bit like,
Well, we were, weren't we? Yeah.
But well, most people surely.
Failed at Everton. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to move on now. Who was your player of the tournament? Now you can choose an England player and/or a foreign player. Who do you think stuck out in that tournament for you? Who was the star?
For England, I'm not going to go with the obvious one. I thought Sterling had a great tournament. For me, Declan Rice he's just propelled himself into another atmosphere for me. I was a bit unsure about him, you know, and he'd just come back from injury as well after not playing for the last 2 or 3 months for West Ham. I thought he was brilliant in every single game for England, covered every single blade of grass and just got really stuck in. So for me, for an England point of view, Declan Rice. And from the other teams, I mean, the obvious one is Patrick Schick. I thought he was absolutely amazing for Czech Republic, and my favourite goal of the tournament by far was that halfway shot they had against Scotland. I mean, you're not going to see any better than that. He was just outstanding the whole tournament, really.
Stefan?
For me, for England, I'd say Luke Shaw, because he was a player.
That's what I was going to say.
Changing it quickly. So going into the tournament, I could have had Chilwell there or Shaw. I just felt with a similar ability. I don't mind who goes there.
I remember when you were showing me who you would choose in your starting 11 for England, and the majority of the time you used to say Chilwell. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, let's go Shaw now.
He didn't get a look in, did he? Ben Chilwell didn't get a look in at all. So surprising.
And rightly so. Rightly so.
Yeah,
he's you can understand why Trippier would get in. He's just won the Liga with Atletico. I mean, why would he not get into that team after performing
seems
well?
like he's one of Southgate's boys as well. Seems like Southgate really respects his abilities.
We are lucky in a way that the World Cup's only 16 months away. So Kyle Walker and Trippier probably will feature some part in that World Cup, but then you're going to probably see the younger players for certainly the 2024 Euros maybe come through. And I do wonder that Southgate's aware of that, which is why he's taken Sancho and not really played him so much. That's probably why he's taken Bellingham, not really played him so much. Dominic Calvert-Lewin to a certain extent as well. You know, Chilwell as well. You know, these are players he wants around. He knows you can call upon them if needed, and they'll certainly feature in tournaments to come.
Yeah, well, I was going to say Shaw, but I'm also going to say Chiellini as well. I thought he was unbelievable, outstanding. Like, even though we know he's getting on, he just put on a defensive clinic every single game. He looked rock solid. So,
he's proper leader, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, I think him and Bonucci. I could have given it to Bonucci, but I thought I'd go with Chiellini because I thought he was.
I think an honourable mention for the player that I most enjoyed watching was Chiesa, and I think against us,
good shout.
He was the player that was causing us problems. And if you look at the goals he scored throughout the tournament, important goals. I think, I'm not sure if he got one against Spain. He certainly got the winner against Austria, and he was just England could not deal with him.
Yeah.
I think. And as winning it as well, right? I think he would be my player of the tournament.
All right. Favourite game? England or any other?
France, Switzerland, I think, in terms of just...
Yeah, definitely. Unbelievable.
It had everything, right?
It was incredible. So, what a game.
So a comeback, 3-minute double salvo as the Sound Champ manager.
Was it 3-1 down, 80 minutes gone?
3-1 up.
Yeah, incredible.
Pogba's goal, the comeback, then the penalty shootout, Benzema.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I'd say that was my most memorable game.
Any for England that stick out?
Germany, right?
You don't sound convinced.
That's when it turns.
Germany.
That's when
Germany without.
Are they the real enemy anymore? Are they a real enemy anymore?
Of course they are.
Yeah, they still are.
Germany,
right.
in terms of Europeans, for me, Germany, without a shadow of a doubt, are the ultimate old enemy. For me, Argentina, I really want to get Argentina in the next World Cup and just absolutely pummel them.
Careful what you wish for, young man.
Well, I think this is one of the worst Argentinians. He was talking about how poor this German squad is. This Argentinian team, they're no great shakes. I tell you that now. Yeah, excuse the pun going into the Qatar World Cup, but they're nothing special. I think this England team, you've got Di Maria and you've got
is that Messi lad? He's pretty good.
Yeah, you've got Messi obviously, but you've got players that are, one or two players still playing in the Argentinian league. You've got De Paul and you've got Otamendi playing at the back. You can't even get in Man City's team. The Celso can't even get hold of place in Spurs squad. I just don't see this Argentinian side doing better in the World Cup. So for me, in terms of who England's main rivals are, for me, I put Argentina ahead of Germany. Obviously, the German game is just a major highlight for me. I was incredibly happy when Czech Republic knocked out Holland, because I think that just showed Frank de Boer up for the failure of the manager that he's been. I think he's been stealing a living as a football coach, to be honest. I mean, he lasted 5 minutes at Crystal Palace.
Good job.
He listed lasted 5 minutes at Inter Milan. The players at Atalanta United just couldn't stand him. And then somehow he stepped in the breach. I mean, Koeman just walked out, didn't he, on the Dutch team for Barcelona. And he stepped in and, you could see the cracks in the group stage with Holland when they came up against Ukraine and nearly blew it. And I just think that victory just papered over a lot of cracks, and they just fell to bits. So for me, for matches not involving England, like Holland getting knocked out, really was the icing on the cake for quite a satisfactory tournament for me.
I mean, it's a little bit bitter, but I've got to say England against Denmark in the semi-final, because I thought the writing was on the wall. I thought, another semi-final, here we go. And we did sneak a win. Whether it was a legitimate goal or not doesn't matter. But I really thought then, wow, England have got away with it. We're usually on the other side of that. That sort of stuff usually happens to us. I thought, wow, we're in a final. So yeah, I would say that. And what you just said, Stefan, the France game, I just thought that was an amazing game. I thought it was brilliant.
Well,
there was also a 3-2 game with Ukraine at the beginning of the tournament.
Yeah, Holland, Ukraine. Yeah,
that was a good game as well.
Yeah. I mean, going back to Denmark briefly, I mean, Damsgaard and Dolberg. I mean,
Dolberg, good. Very good player.
They're ploughing their trade, Nice and for Sampdoria. I mean, they are. You always see players, and I've already mentioned Patrick Schick. Like possibly getting a move. Though Schick, Dolberg, and Damsgaard, they're the three players I think from this tournament that are quite likely to benefit in their own careers, getting big moves in this transfer window. They really stuck out for me.
Most memorable one, I'd say for me, was probably the point in the England-Germany game when you're talking about getting away with it, where Thomas Müller went clear through. Because that was
heart in mouth moment, right, for all of us.
Because it was almost like Pickford was showing him the place to put it. Sterling would give the ball away. It couldn't have been an easy. And he's a player, isn't he? A clinical player that would put that away and has.
Yep. Again, that's like we're getting away with it.
Getting away, exactly. And that was the Gary McAllister penalty for me.
It was. Yeah, very well put, Stefan. I mean, yeah. But it was. We should
say thank you to Yuri Geller if he's watching for that one. Then
he'll be claiming credit for it. Don't worry.
It's moments like that, though, isn't it, where a player of Muller's ability misses a one-on-one. When we get a lucky penalty against Denmark in the semi-final, Kane misses it, puts in the rebound. Those are the moments that were coming where you're like, our name's on the cup, and it wasn't to be. Yeah.
Italy, just so strong. Anyway, boys, we're going to wrap this up now. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on this Euro England post-mortem. And join us next time for more Halftime Oranges. Goodbye for now.